topic here is to remind people that, COVID's out there, but there are also other things. And right before the show, everybody was talking about a white van, and poof, it just
And it
disappeared.
just disappeared. Also, Sherry had made mention. If we are here, we are women. Who's ever gotten their hair braided in Harlem?
Oh, right here.
Okay, so there has been stings. There has been investigations of the women that are working in those salons were humanly trafficked and came brought here to work as slave labor to braid hair. Okay, a lot of it is, again, they said, what are the indicators? Living with your employer. Think about a lot of the nail salons. Think there's a lot. I mean, we always go into the sexual part of it, and that's a huge piece of it. But it's not the only piece. And because sometimes we get so caught up in it being what we consider it to be, we get stuck. And we are, again, we are the sistership, so we want to talk about that. Lack of a lot of time is a lack of personal safety. So let's talk about perhaps being in the home, because we spoke of it starting. A lot of this starts in the home. So when you're in a home and you feel lack of personal safety, that could become a platform for someone else to make a decision. Daisy, and I know you work in the medical field. What have you seen maybe coming across? And I know you have to be careful with certain statements because of
Yeah,
laws and
because I'm a
guidelines.
registered nurse, so
Yes.
I'm actually not going to speak about what I've seen
Okay.
because it may violate someone privacy related to HIPAA. So I will not speak about that. I will speak about just like you said, like the nail salons, just different places that I've ventured to that I've noticed that there may be some trafficking going on. You could tell by their demeanor, the way they're dressed, the way they speak in code to one another, the way they all have to leave at 8 o'clock at the same time. I don't know if you ever noticed that. They're like, we all got to leave at 7:59. And you're just like, why? Because we have to all get in the van together. I'm like, where's the van taking you? And they're like, you don't know? And that just happened 2 weeks ago when I was in Jersey. I was just like, this is, questionable.
Well, I'm not a registered nurse. And you could see it at ERs, you could see it in your home, you could see it at a friend's house, you could see it on the street. Those that have been violated in that manner are usually frightened out of their minds. They're mentally abused, they feel some kind of way, they are beaten, they are bruised, they have been tied up, they have been drugged. Some of them become addicts because that's the easiest way to get them to submit. All rights have been taken away. They're told when to use the bathroom. They're prisoners. And anybody that has ever been in the prison system, when the CO can tell you when you can eat, use the bathroom. Some of these people, some of the victims that have experienced this, some of the people, and I don't want to continue to call them victims. Only those that are still in it are considered victims right now.
Amen.
But there are many survivors of it. They will let you know that they had a void. Some of them had a void. Those that weren't taken as little children. Some children are human trafficked at home. New boyfriend, new girlfriend come in. They're just monsters. Simply said. The news this past couple of weeks, I've been completely blown away by some of the things that have been going on in the news. So I did a show on the TP Square show one Saturday morning, and it was called Who Raised You? And when we was having a conversation about it, we were discussing how who raised you plays a big part. Your family trusts certain people.
Yes.
You can't trust anybody right now.
Mm.
There was a young lady. School is virtual right now, where some children are doing cyber school, and then some children are doing virtual school where they are on the computer. And in the last week, there was a story of a family member being at home with a 7-year-old and she's 7. I think he was 18, and he forced her to perform oral sex in front of the camera. So can you imagine what was happening when the camera wasn't on?
No.
He got arrested. I'm not sure how he got out of the house before the cops got there, where he got arrested. He shouldn't have been able to walk.
Right.
Had it been mine, he would have been dead, and they would have just taken me out.
Absolutely.
But that's the beginning for some people. Human traffic begins for a lot of people. They don't realize it begins at home. Slavery, people were at home. They were forcibly taken. But is all human traffic forced?
No. Actually, if there was a show I watched, my daughter was asking me to watch this show, on Netflix, Satonia Brown story. And Satonia Brown was a young lady in Kentucky, and she became the poster child for she killed her perpetrator. Now, it wasn't her pimp. So she had a boyfriend. It was a John. She had a boyfriend who was basically saying, hey, you need to go out there and get some money. And she had had sex before, and she had sold her body before many times. This particular time, she was trying to go to the street, the area that her boyfriend told her to go. That's, I guess, a stroll in that area. And she needed a way there. So a guy pulls up, and he's like, hey, she's like, I need to go such and such. And then he said, for an exchange. And she, she knew the game. She was with it. And she went with him. And then he says, I want to take you to my house. Versus she usually goes to a hotel, or she goes in the back of a car or whatever. She was like, I'm going to go to your home. And I guess in that moment, she didn't feel anything crazy about it. But when she got to his house, he was showing her his guns, and he was just putting her in a position where she felt he was going to kill her.
Right.
And then her thing was, I'm going to pretend to go to sleep. Let's go to sleep, and then I can get out of here. Needless to say, he knew she was a child, and he was a grown man. Okay? And she killed him. She shot him. She shot him with the belief that he was going to kill her. So this became national news, or at least it became news, and let's say local news, that became national news as time progressed. But I say that to say, before Satonia Brown met with that man that evening, she was already challenged by a child, because she was already beginning the process of feeling isolated. She was already emotional distress. She already was part of poverty, and she was utilizing drugs and dope to kind of numb some of those areas. So I see Daisy is like biting at the, okay. So she's using these different vices to cope with life. Her mother was a substance abuser. So she was put into a foster care adoption situation because her mother couldn't care for her. So there's these other pieces as a young girl. When your mother, I will tell you, when your mother chooses something over the child, the damage, and see, this is why I wore my glasses, because it wasn't because I was cute today, and I know I usually am, but I knew I would feel this. The damage that you bring to a child when you choose dope over your child, when you choose another man, a bad man, over your child. So this is what this young girl dealt with. That is a seed of mental illness, and that is a seed to make you vulnerable to the predators that are out there. And some of them predators is your uncle,
Some is
Yeah,
your father.
your
your
cousin,
father.
your boyfriend,
Your
your
brother.
girlfriend.
Friend of the family.
The babysitter son.
And that's why we're
Grandparents.
always talking about also, because a lot of the times, Sherry, we talk about condition for abuse, you know, and it starts at home. And mentally, you have these conditions that you're under that make you think that it's okay for you to be in a certain situation. So you allow yourself to attract these men into your life because that's all you knew.
But let's be clear, human trafficking doesn't just affect females.
No.
Right.
No.
It affects males too.
It does.
We have what we call the walking wounded.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that have so many wounds. Hurt people hurt people. And because the world is full of hurt people,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
there's hurt people all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of communities, mental health is taboo. But
Especially
we
in
need
the
to
black
make
community.
it
Mm-hmm.
not taboo
Mm-hmm.
anymore, because if we just take into account and people know that they could get help, they're less likely to fall prey.
Mm-hmm.
Now, surviving human trafficking or any other form of abuse is a lifetime of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
We don't recover overnight. We don't recover in weeks, months, years. It takes a long time to recover and be able to function in recovery.
Or even be able to talk about it. I mean, I watched my mom, who has been sexually abused, and how she's dealt with it, and she's still dealing with it now. And you hear her all the time talking about it. But that's how she coped with it. But I've seen through our whole family, I know it exists. I've never had it happen to me. Actually, when we went down south one time, there was, I guess, an uncle or something like that. But I already knew if somebody to move. So he kind of touched and I moved and I went over to my mother, and that was ever the only time that I kind of experienced that. However, watching my family, my mother, that her whole family, they went through that. So our family, although we're large, they're separate. They are separated because of the abuse that was within them. And there was 6 of them, I think, and it's been a separation between them because of all the abuse that they dealt with. And we have one of my aunts, she won't even deal with it. So she's kind of separated herself from the entire family. Although she'll give, she's separated herself from the family because of what they went through. You have my uncle, and no one really talks about it. My mother will talk about it, but that's how she copes with it, you know?
That's actually how that's helping her to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people say when you go to a therapist, you don't realize talk
Mhm.
therapy
Mm-hmm.
is healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so each time she speaks about it, she's healing a small portion of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you fully healed, it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
When you partially healed, it's still easier. You can talk about those kind of things more than what you could when you're still experiencing a wound that's wide open
Mm-hmm.
and someone may throw salt in it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to piggyback when y'all was saying it starts in the home, and we already know that this is a global issue. It's just not here in the States.
Right.
A
Oh,
lot of
it's
those
here.
countries.
It's here.
I know it's here.
Oh, it's here.
I know it's here.
But
It's right here on
she's
East
absolutely
Stroudsburg.
right.
It's
It's
a more
global.
aggressive
Globally.
global.
Global.
Yeah,
What I'm
because
trying
there's
to
a
say
little bit
is-
more protection laws
Yeah,
here.
right. But I want to say this: when you talk about starting from the home, a lot of those people in those countries that are poor, because they don't have the money, they actually sell their children, and this is
Exactly.
how the kids and adult kids get caught into trafficking because
Mhm.
the family needed the money, and they have no idea what's happening to their child. They just think, oh, this is a thing for marriage, and it goes deeper than that.
It
But
does.
nobody thinks about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to piggyback on 2 things. First, number 1, the 3 common types of human trafficking is sex trade, which we're talking about, forced labor, what we've talked about, and what you said, getting married, domestic servitude. But what I want to say with Tiff
Mm-hmm.
and Sherry was discussing, the bond was shifted because they talked about it. You wasn't, when the uncle, whoever did whatever,
Right.
you
I knew what
were
time it was.
aware.
Mhm.
This is what this conversation is about today. This is
Mhm.
what this conversation is about today.
Absolutely.
Is to give some awareness. I would definitely want to also say to our viewership, we have to use our instinct. And sometimes
And
as
intuition.
adults, we break that child's instinct
Yes.
by saying,
Yes.
no, go hug him. When the child didn't want to
No.
go and hug.
Absolutely. Follow
What,
your
go-
instinct. Yes.
So we're doing love. We think we're walking in love. But when you have an instinct, when a child has an instinct, don't
Let them
break
follow it.
them by telling them no.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I will share a piece. Okay. My uncle abused me. My mother don't even know. So if she's watching this right now,
Now she
this
knows.
piece she will know. And the reason I allowed that to take place is because she needed a babysitter. And that's all I kept hearing as a kid. Nobody will watch you. I need to do this and do that. And so this household would watch me. And I didn't want her to be stressed out by not having a babysitter for me. So it's easy. And I took one for the team.
Wow. That's a lot for a child.
And I was a kid.
That's a lot for a child. And that actually happened in my family. And right now it's causing a division as well, too, because I chose to believe a child. And because that child, they confide in me, now people are looking at me. And like Shari said, you don't know who's who. You really don't. Like, you got people in your family, and they touching these babies. And it's not funny. Because I did a show about this on my podcast last week, and it hits home twice. 2 family members. This is a big issue, and I'm tired of people protecting the predators.
Yep.
Right.
Stop it. Stop thinking, oh, he's nice. He would never do that. Oh, he loves kids. Why does he love kids so much? Nobody
That's right.
never asked that. And nobody never asked
Absolutely.
why the 13 or 14-year-old, she's so promiscuous. Why is she with
Oh.
There's a root to it. There's a root. And you're missing the root. Somebody groomed that baby. Somebody
Yes.
touched that baby. Somebody did something to that baby, because there's no way that a 13, 14, 15-year-old is just going to act like that.
That's
It
right.
started somewhere.
That's right.
Pay attention, parents.
Pay attention.
Pay attention, uncles. Pay attention, niece, whoever you are. Observe the baby. Observe their behaviors when people come in the room. Observe them. They're telling you. You're just not paying attention.
And let me also say, pay attention to when you have other relationships and
Yes.
stuff like that. Because watch the children and the children that are around, okay? Because it could be happening to the children. The children, you think, okay, you have a relationship with that the boyfriend, or that's your boyfriend, and they have kids, and you bring the kids and you bring everybody together,
Yes.
and there's an issue. So we need to bring it to the forefront so that everybody knows that it still exists. It's still there.
Well,
There's still predators. There's still stuff out there.
It's also so a lot of times what people don't realize is that you have to watch the children, because children of abuse, not all, but some children that have been abused will become perpetrators.
Yes.
Yes.
And because someone told them that it was okay,
It was okay.
they think that it was okay.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They'll play certain games with each other, like doctor. Let's play house, and
Right.
then you start watching their interactions, and then you get a lot of information from that. But I'll say, if you think your child is being abused or something like that, you know that they can't verbalize it. You give them a doll, and then with the doll, you ask them what did they do, and they'll show you what someone did to their body with a doll. That's something we
Because
do.
they can't explain
but
it.
we also have to be careful with that, because children are impressionable.
But we still don't want them to lose their voice. So that opens up the conversation. It's not a diagnosis. So it starts the conversation. So this happened. So let's go further in. And then it goes back to that talk therapy. You get a child psychologist to dig deeper before you start accusing anybody. But you could also go back in time to figure out, when were they alone with this person? How much time? And I think, too, a lot of individuals don't want to take accountability that they put this child in harm's way. The other thing I've always
That's
noticed,
heavy.
yeah, they don't want to take accountability of it, because if I take accountability about it, I have to do something about it.
Right.
I put my daughter in this
Always.
harm's way. I said go with the fake family friend uncle that everyone loves. Go sit on his lap. Oh, no, he's just disciplining you and blah, blah, blah.
But I also want to say we're having this topic here, but we also can't make people fearful. Okay?
Right.
Know that it is out there and it exists, but because we're having this conversation, you can't.
Right. You need to be
because some people will
responsible.
grab their kids and then shelter And
Right.
if you shelter them, you may even make it worse because they don't understand what's going on. So you have to talk to them about what is going on and continue to talk to them about what's going on. But to grab them and shelter them because you fear of what's going on or what we're talking about here, that's also an issue, and it can become mentally abusive to them as well.
to them. I would also, it stated, looking at making sure if you notice that children are avoiding eye contact, they might have already been victimized in some kind of way.
In some kind of way, right? It could be any kind of way, not just sexual. It could be verbal, mental, but something is going on that they don't want to make eye
They don't want to
contact.
make eye contact. Another thing they said to look for is if the child appears to be fearful around adults. So that's something else to look for. And are they aggressive against people of authority? So certain things to just look at. But again, it said a few ways of protecting yourself. Act swiftly if you are suspicious. Avoid, now this is more or less for women, again, especially living in the city. I remember a lot of women, you get off the subway and you're going to wherever you're going. Avoid walking alone. Be vigilant about your surroundings. I was just hearing a story about a woman that had been walking around. I don't know if you shared it with me. Someone had just recently shared. A woman was walking through Walmart, and she just so happened to ran into her ex-husband. So, but this other woman was then kidnapped and killed. And when they went back to check the surveillance, the woman that ran into her husband, that's who that guy was actually after. And then she ran into her ex-husband, and I guess the person didn't know what was happening, but she talked into a man. But he was so worked up, he found the next woman
to grab.
to grab. So please, we need to be mindful of our
And
surroundings.
surroundings.
Don't trust easily. There's always these memes about, oh, you go to your car and you see something on your windshield wiper, and if you grab it before you get in, be mindful. If you see something that's just not your normal, we have to, almost be our own detectives for ourselves. Just go with the flyer on your hood. Go with the certain things. Don't change anything because you may be putting yourself in a position. I know many women start their car, go get gas, open the door, the car is going, go pump the gas, get out, take the car,
You open yourself up.
We open ourselves up. And now it isn't just women. However, because of our physicality, we are easier. We're easier to be a victim to that.
One thing I will say, and what I've learned from being a correction officer for 2 years, put yourself in different environments because you learn so much. So I've learned different tactics and different ways of living and just different things in general because I've been in different situations. So I kind of know how to cope with, the predator. In working with this, being a CEO, there were certain people that we worked with that were, predators, with children and human trafficking. They were in there, and I had to deal with them, and it was like, wow, and it was up right here, and I was, shackled, cuffed, and taking them out. So it's there. It's there. So I appreciate the fact that I was a correction officer for 2 years because I was able to, number one, learn how to protect myself, learn how to use a gun, and then also learn that it's there. So it was in my face. So there's no way that I can say that it doesn't exist because, it exists. So we have to be mindful and focus on what we're doing at all times. And that's why, again, we brought it to the sistership because we have COVID-19 out here, and everybody forgot about other stuff.
There's a
that was
whole
out
lot
there.
of other things happening. There's a few steps in getting to the point of human trafficking, and I kind of wanted to maybe if we can share what does each step mean to us, because that might be that conversation that takes place with someone that's listening right now that says, oh shoot. So the first step that they're stating is luring. The luring of, what does that mean to you?
Oh, me specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know it's hard with the mask today.
I know.
Mind you,
Sometimes
there
we have it
has
and
been
sometimes we
an
don't.
uprise
Right.
Yes.
in what we've been. Let's share, because I know sometimes you see us with. We are being mindful of the notification that there has been an uprise in cases. So today,
And also Smithfield Elementary School, actually, they had 3 teachers who tested positive, so the school is going virtual. So yeah, the cases are rising right
so
now.
we are just
So you have to be mindful of what's
mindful
going on
of
around
our
you.
surroundings. But Loring, Daisy, what does that
from
feel like?
from my understanding, is anything that would get the child's attention. So the predator first they do research. Okay, the kids like, for instance, pizza party is like a code word for the industry. We're having a pizza party, or they'll use
I
different.
never knew that. Thank you for that. I didn't
Oh
even know
yeah,
that.
there's language that to let you know that they're having a sex trafficking party for children.
Wow.
There's a whole thing related to that. Yeah, and
And this is online?
there's I'll give the information
Really?
because being in part of different organizations, you get privy to that information. So then anyway, so they use different ways to lure the children, something like commonality, or they'll say use their language. If there's a popular kiddie song, they'll start singing a popular kiddie song. Anything to make that child feel like you're my friend. We're friends. Or they'll tell the kid, I'm just a bigger version of you. We're buddies. And it's just like, you have to, especially if you're dating someone, you have to ask, why is he extra friendly with my child? Like, he just loves my kid so much. He's like the greatest guy. You need to check that, or woman. And just because you have a boy, that doesn't make a boy safe.
That doesn't make
because
it
remember what's
different, right.
happening in the churches. It was little boys that were getting raped.
And luring could also be money.
Anything
here,
that
let's make
gravitates
some
to
money.
anything
Let's
that
do-
gravitates towards the child, video games, sneaker. You want to drive my brand new car. Oh, your mom doesn't let you have a cell phone? I'll give you a cell phone. They find a crack. They find a way in. They're experts at this because this is what their science is, children. So they have a PhD in knowing how to get into somebody that is vulnerable. And that's the first way of them getting off, actually. It's almost like a
high.
courtship for
Yeah,
them.
it's a high. Yeah.
To before they get to the utopia of actually experiencing the child.
This another step they state is grooming and gaming. Anyone want to take a grooming and gaming?
When you deal with some young people, because it's not always children.
That's right.
When you deal with some young people, young women, young males, it's about giving them what they find, that you find they void,
Mm-hmm.
and then you try to fill it with,
With your agenda.
You prepare
Yes.
them for what they're going to do. Well, nobody loves you like I love you. Nobody's going to do for you like I'm going to do for you. Shiny, glittery things for these young people that are out here thinking they partying. Because sometimes you can get drugged at a party.
Mm-hmm.
You can get drugged at a friend's house, at a sorority or fraternity party, even an adult party.
I was just going to say, what about for the women, Sherry?
A lot of people are distracted by their phones. Please, your phones, we have survived centuries without phones being glued to our hands.
And now we can't function.
You
1
got
minute.
people that are walking into walls, but you can't see what's going on around you. You never know your surroundings because your head is always down looking at your phone.
Wait, stop for a second. I want to press rewind. Say that again.
What?
The walking into the walls.
Walking into the walls.
Yeah, they walking into walls because their head is
looking
down.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how them vans, people are able to
The
snatch
white
you. Oh,
van.
that, she's not paying attention. Yep, go get her.
Yeah.
They pay attention to that. So they also groom you into, oh, your mom, like Daisy said, they won't give you a phone. I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes. They see where you lacking somewhere else. Maybe
And they
you're
pick
hungry.
up on it.
They'll put you against your parent.
Yeah.
Oh, they grounded you for that. Oh, when you come to my house later on, I know you haven't been there yet, but when you come over, you can stay up as late as you want. Oh, don't worry. They make themselves sound like the best thing since sliced bread.
Yes. Traffickers use a deliberate process to identify and recruit their victims. It happens in 3 main phases, and you guys said it: scouting, manipulating, and trapping. Victims are often showered with love, romance, and promise of a better life. Others are lured in with false promises of a job or given expensive gifts. And the median age of human trafficking, according to the Department of Justice, is 15. So one of the other steps was coercion and manipulation, which you shared. But the final step is exploitation. Using whomever that person is for the agenda. Is it for sex? Is it for the job? Is it marriage? Is it domestic servitude? These are the directions in which it was taking place. I also will share a story of someone who shared with me. Her first sexual encounter, again, was with an uncle, a blood uncle. She was a child and he utilized her body for a few years, up until she was about 16. She didn't quite understand it because she didn't want this to happen, but she shared with me she had orgasms. So her body is reacting in a certain way. However, she's not wanting this. So she never really understood the difference between, well, why am I responding this way if it's not what I want? I've heard
Tyler
young men.
Perry has said that he felt so ashamed because he said his body, went against him. His body betrayed him. That's what he said. His body betrayed him because he would have an orgasm from the abuse.
And so you don't know the difference.
You don't know the difference.
And as a child,
it just feels good.
it feels good, but it doesn't.
Right.
And then so she
don't
went
know.
on to say, and she is now a woman that is well in her 50s, and she is married. And she married a man that is very much her senior. And I'm not saying if bad or good. I'm just saying that's her story. She has never had an orgasm with her husband.
Now, can she masturbate?
She didn't go that deep. But
That would be a great therapy for her to start there, and have a therapist, a good one, the one that deals with that sexual trauma. But masturbation may be the key to her unlocking, enjoying sex, or if something comes up during the time of the orgasm, have a journal, write it down, and have somebody an actual therapist that she can call when that happens.
And I have a few conversations that has come my way because they knew the show was happening this week. And we have other people that want to do some more conversation in reference to switching, and I'll go with more the sex trafficking portion of the human trafficking. Will it lessen if you have other ways of stimulation? There's something out there, and I've never been on it, so this is only a concept. I've never been on it. OnlyFans, so I don't know if that's what OnlyFans does, but there's something called OnlyFans or Fans Only page that people buy into this, and they're able to have, let's say, some artistic interpretation of the female bodies and things like that. So does that slow down the concept of having to sell bodies? You had made a mention of what the industry is, the expense that's happening. I think you had found.
Oh, right. So globally,
150 billion.
this is a $150
billion
industry.
Let me just say that this is not a one-time topic, so we will continue to talk about this because it's so much to human trafficking, and I know Sherry has some information that she wants to share with us as well. And we have Carol Anderson that's
Carol
going to
Anderson
at 3
coming
o'clock.
later.
Also, I want to say Charisse Amore, she's usually on the midday tea. We want to send our blessings to her because her brother who had passed away. So because of that, I know Daisy will be traveling down there for the funeral.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is we always look out for each other. When one can do, we always pick up. That's what the sistership is about. So on Wednesday, for the midday tea, what's going to happen is Daisy and Sharice are taking care of what they need to take care of, and we're going to have someone do a part 2 who is actually Carol Anderson, who's going to call here.
And she's the
And
one of the founders of Bloom.
yes, and she's and there's going to be a victim with her, and they will talk on midday tea about it. So a survivor, a survivor of it, and they're going to talk on midday tea in reference to it. So we want to extend it even further and just not have one conversation and leave it because it's not a topic that you can just drop and say, okay, well, I'm done with it, because no, it's a serious topic. So that's going to continue on because, again, like at the sistership, we cover each other, you know.
Yeah.
And
So the
that's what we-
services
Well,
will be
it's-
going on exactly at the same time.
Yeah,
as
I
the
thought
show
I saw
airs.
something like
Yep,
that. Yeah.
yep, mhm.
But also, too, it's a topic, like you said, that if we're gonna say something, we have to say more than something.
Something.
If we're gonna even have this, and we're sharing and we're caring, and again, no one here is saying that we are the professional or the
Correct.
expert
Correct.
in, we're having dialogue
experience.
and conversation in reference to it. I want to say too, because we've seen people, the mental illness gets a lot of coverage, okay, and what that's about, and you have people that are suicidal, and the people that have committed suicide. So there was a woman, I saw this on Facebook, and how she found out that her child was a victim of sex trafficking is because her 14-year-old girl said, "I don't want to be here anymore." And so that is what if the girl would have just killed herself or commit suicide, her mother would have never known that this was happening. But there was this drop of hope in the child somewhere along the line, even in the midst of the trauma, in the midst of being a victim. There was some type of seed, and they say the mustard seed of faith. There was some seed that she went to her mother, and the mom listened. Some mothers don't listen. I hear so many times that mothers will hear their daughters, will tell them something, and they dismiss it.
Right.
Oh, you don't know what you're talking
They
about.
hear it, but they don't want to listen.
They don't want to listen, and they don't want to do anything with the information.
Yep.
This mother saved her child's life because she listened. Ooh.
I think the other thing for parents, especially if you're new, and if this is your first time hearing this, first you have to start with the conversation of just having a normal conversation with your children about the body. You have so many children that don't know the proper name for their body parts, or they don't know the language of their body. So if you're constantly talking to your child of, when you get your period, and use the word vagina, the word penis, you make it a common thing in the household, just like elbow, eyelashes, or anything like that. When something happens, or the child may perceive something could happen, or may be happening, they'll be more able to open up to that parent.
Right.
But the parent is so prudent. Oh, we don't talk about sex in this house. Like, we don't talk about these things. How is a child going to go to that parent and say, your best friend the other day raped me in the garage, and then
And
passed me
also-
around to his friends at the party you dropped me off at because you had to work late? Where do they find that space if they can't even tell you that they have a problem when they peeing because it burns? Because you don't talk about those private parts.
And also for the male children to have respect for the woman's body. So as a mother talking to your son, having that conversation, this is this, but honor this. Honor, like, are the moms having that dialogue with their sons? Because a lot of times, a lot of what we're hearing a lot is the female and the responsibility of the female.
And it's so much higher in males than is realized.
And
They are
it's
getting raped.
hiding,
They are
but
getting
the-
molested. They're getting molested by older women, teenagers. Teenage girls are molesting young boys. All right.
Who was that actor that said a woman was sleep? Oh, I can't think.
Was
of
sleeping
it.
in the bed with him?
It's an actor that just was saying his first experience was with grown women, and he was, and then he
I
was.
know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name, but yeah.
It's not coming. But he was like, I was okay with it. But really,
You was molested.
he was
You were raped.
molested. He was
Molested and raped.
But
Sodomized.
it's frowned upon. It's frowned upon if a male tells.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the society we're in.
So you have males that would say, really? No, that didn't happen. Did you get erect? Then your body was responding.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, that's where, he get pat on his back. Oh, you messing with an older woman?
Yeah.
But then again, that's a broken conversation. If he has a conversation with someone that's healed or somebody that's of an honorable stance, and there are men out there that he would say that to a man, an honorable man, a man of valor and integrity, would hear that we're gonna help you out.
But
So the roll of that
90%
dice.
of the time, you're gonna have females having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How many male shows are having that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you in the circle that I travel around, especially in the gay community, that's a big conversation of their first experiences.
Yes.
So it depends again on the circle and where you're at, where the conversations are more prevalent.
Right, but how do we get them to come out more so that other people can realize that that's happening? Because a lot of people don't see it.
So when you have the conversation, boys and girls, you have to just say boys and girls are molested, boys and girls are human trafficking, instead of saying she, them.
And
We had
can-
a show. We had a show here, the Father's Day show,
Mhm.
and it spoke of the men being productive in the family. And we have to really support the men to be the men that is necessary for the rearing
Absolutely.
and the grooming of the way a girl child will see a male and a male child to be a male. And we
Agreed.
need to really push on that. I want to share this because we live in a world of social media, and I had spoken of the fans, only fans. But the young lady who did survive, the 14-year-old that did survive the sex trafficking, she said that she was offered, she would, again, she wanted to, you're on social media and you see the outfits that the girls are wearing, and they're expensive, and the Fashion Novas and the boots and things like that. So she was offered to perform oral sex for money. She was offered, we can give you followers on your
Right.
Snapchat,
You gotta be kidding me.
and your Instagram. These are the things that are so important. When we talked
And
about
that
the
are important
boy,
to
we were talking maybe, lack of a father in the home, or lack of this, or lack of that. But there's this lack of social acceptance in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And this child she said she had friends saying she was being sold for sex and against her will. Authorities did not say that was sent. Facebook messages was made to the mother, and the mother didn't know at first. Like, it was a whole lot of things happening. But we have to be mindful of what these voids are. And I think coming from a woman of a certain age and having my children, I have my children later, and maybe some people, the voids are different for these kids now than
Than it
what
was
we
before.
might identify with. So yes, we have a grassroots and foundation of these things that are tried and true. Yes, they exist. But there's other avenues of voids. And Sherry said it, she said it, it's voids. Voids and holes. If someone can see your void and your hole and they have an agenda and their agenda is negative, predatory, or anything like that, they can filter their way in.
And that's another reason why I tell people to push to keep up with social media and the different platforms that are out there. Because there are a lot of older adults that don't know how to operate or work these type of social media platforms. And I'm on it. You know, I'll ask my daughter, I'll ask her, oh, I need to, yeah, okay, you on what? Okay, I'm on Snapchat, Instagram, but we're going to do this together so that I know exactly TikTok. Oh, yeah, I'll get on all to make sure I know what platforms they're on and back and forth. And I have access to see what's going on in their accounts. And a lot of people don't do that because they're afraid of the new technology that's out there. But as parents, you have to push yourself to know that technology because your children are using it.
Some parents say I want to give them privacy. There is no privacy if you're under the age of 18 in my house. I'm sorry. You know, you need to monitor their social media platforms or whenever they're or even on the internet. It doesn't matter, even in their phones.
And two, again, poverty, you know, or the need of, as adult, the need of being able to financially take care. I mean, again, most of us, I work ridiculous. I work over full time. If you watch me, you're like, when does she sleep? Okay? And I think a lot of us are chasing our dream, our career.
Yes.
We're chasing so many different things that it's like, oh, what are you prioritizing and what is the things you kind of pencil in? And you feel that, hey, I'm a great mother, I'm a great this, or I'm doing everything the best that I can. And that's a term we use. I'm just doing the best that I can. I'm just doing the best that I can. But is the best that we can really protecting not just our children, but our society of children? And again, that's one of the things, you just said it with the sistership. You know, one of our sisters is dealing with the loss of her brother. And another sister is going to be there to assist her with that. We're going to do this. We're going to take this and we're going to continue on the Wednesday. She doesn't have to worry about any of this. She doesn't have to concern herself with these pieces. But we're still keeping this alive during your process. Another thing to be mindful of, and this was shocking to me, however, it's real. The tattooing. Do you know that in trafficking, they will have tattoos on their victims?
It's called branded.
It's a
They
barcode.
brand them.
Now, you
Yes,
know
it's like a
how these
barcode.
kids are like loving tattoos or loving oh, I'm going to get a tattoo. Oh, I'm going to get a pair of Jordans. Oh, I'm going to get more likes on my page. Oh, I'm going to get whatever. You know, these things are happening, and I know Carol is going to be calling soon, so I don't want to kill that time. And anyone that's out there listening right now and they have something to share, our phone number is 888-304-4401, 888-304-4401. Again, I want to thank the sistership for being so allowing of the provocative conversations. And provocative, I'm not meaning in a sensual, I'm meaning to provoke conversations of the stuff that just doesn't always feel good. Though we are a feel-good show on so many levels, sometimes those conversations have to go a little bit, go into some layers. Just so we know when Carol comes, and I know you guys know a lot more about her, but she is a 2-year residential program for survivors of sex trafficking, trauma, and addiction. Look in your neighborhoods, look in your areas for havens. I say that to the viewership. Look, Google, no. If you see somebody in your neighborhood and you're challenged by, again, the child being down, the child not responding, or being the person acting out in certain ways. If you notice.
The one thing that we need to notice more than anything is that the villages have changed.
Yes, girl.
And who's raising your children? Who's partaking in raising your children? There were times when we were growing up that our neighbors got what we were doing, and we got in trouble by them.
That's
Just hit speaker.
that's Carol calling, and so Sherry, hold that because we need you to talk that. Yeah.
Sistership.
Hi, this is Carol Anderson calling.
Hey,
Hi,
Carol.
Carol.
Thank you so much for sharing today. I know we're going to be able to share a little bit more on Wednesday, and thank you so much for taking that time out. You are the one of the founders of Bloom, and we would love for you to share a little bit about what Bloom means and give us some help. Give us some help.
Sure. Let me get started.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Well, Bloom is a sister community of Thistle Farms, Nashville. And Thistle Farms is a residential program in Nashville, Tennessee that was launched in 1997 for survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. And after doing this work for quite some time, they realized that others wanted to learn from their success. And in 2014, they had a training and conference where they invited people from all over the country to come and learn about this model. And what we learned was that if we wanted to, they would teach us everything they knew and allow us to join a networking group of other organizations doing similar work, and we could support one another as we helped women rebuild their lives, these women survivors rebuild their lives. So that's what we did. In 2015, we became a sister community of Thistle Farms, and we opened our doors in January of 2016. And since then, we have had 52 women come through our program. An 8-bed residential facility for women survivors of commercial sexual exploitation, which includes trafficking, prostitution, trauma, sexual violence, trauma, and also they are also in recovery and pursuing recovery from an addiction.
Question that I have. What is the difference between sex trafficking and prostitution? Or is there a difference?
Well, there's a difference, I think, in concept. I mean, prostitution is the criminal act of selling sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's illegal in most states in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when if someone were to say, talk about prostitution, more often than not, they're talking about the person selling sex and receiving money for it. Sex trafficking is when someone is coerced through fraud or captivity and then exploited sexually. So there's a third party that's receiving a financial gain versus the buyer and the seller. There's like another third party that's receiving financial gain over the selling of sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what gets really complicated is you have a lot of people who feel that prostitution should be legalized because it is empowering and it allows women to be in control of sexuality and whether they're selling and buying it. And while I'm not educated enough to even have a debate on it, I think what people lack to realize is the incredible sexual violence that comes along with prostitution, and the vulnerability and risk that the prostituted person experiences because of, for whatever reason, they're involved in the sex trade.
Ooh, to make a decision to be part of someone's journey in this way on a regular basis, to hear these stories, to be the arms that someone can run to. What happened, or what took place in your life that you said this is a calling? So what took place for you to make the decision of being that person for so many?
That's a great question, and it's probably something I've thought about a lot. I don't think there was probably not a single like turning point where I said, you know, this is going to be my life's work. Although it's, you know, it's definitely consuming, and I have become very passionate about being someone who believes that it's never too late to start over. I think it was something that came as a result of many, many conversations around how can we help this particular individual, the woman who has been vulnerable because of the trauma that her life has experienced around commercial sexual exploitation, whether it's stripping or survivor sex, which is trading sex for housing, food, affection, or even, you know, the woman who has been trading sex for drugs. I think it was something, you know, that really evolved over time. I had, you know, the sex trafficking is something that I have not been aware of for, you know, a very long time. I think it's something that we've all, people as a society here in America, even laws on the books weren't in place in our state in Pennsylvania, I don't think, until 2014. So it's something relatively new, although prostitution has been familiar, you know, with
biblical.
Me. I've understood that. Yeah, that's true. There you go.
Yeah.
But I think more than 10 years ago, I came across a woman who was prostituting when I was a foster parent, and her children were taken away from her. And just the more that I learned about her story in life, it just made me ask more questions of, you know, what is out there to help her? She wanted help, and we tried to get her some help. And by the time she had her third baby, I was with her in the delivery room. I befriended her. I mean, we weren't close friends. We were more acquaintances, but I was one safe person in her life that was consistent over some years. And because of that, I had really a front row seat to her experience, and it just really launched my more questions, and eventually turned into talking about it enough, and then having a vision, meeting people at Thistle Farms, and learning that, you know, this can be done in a very empowering way that maybe is non-institutionalized. So they said, we'll teach you how to do it, and a friend of mine and I said, well, let's start. And we did.
Excellent.
So you have.
Maybe that was a long answer.
No, that's a beautiful answer, and that's the truth. So you have someone, they walk in, they got to a point where they found you mentally, physically. They made it to this space. They are feeling lonely. They're feeling worthless. They're suicidal. They're scared. They're confused. They're still having mindset of leaving this situation. Is this really the best thing for me to do, is to actually leave the situation? What happens to that person when they walk through your door?
They're welcomed into a community of love and sisterhood. And really invited to explore a whole new way of living, where love is the greatest force for change in the world. And we tell them, we believe in you until you believe in yourself. And then we surround her with other people that believe in her and ask nothing of her other than to show up and do the work. So our program comes at no cost to participants. In fact, we give them $40 a week. We provide for everything they need. We give them and get them whatever they need, whether it's toiletries, clothing, personal care items. We will provide for all of that. And I know $40 doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be, it will buy some cigarettes. It will, just buy some small essentials and give her some choice in that. And then we ask her to attend outpatient treatment at a recovery center that we partner with. we ask her to follow some basic rules. They're not real difficult, but it comes from living in community. And when you live in community with other people, there are some things that we do because we care and we want to live as a family. So,
I love what you said, live as a family. And speaking of that, do you have programs for males or do you have a brother program that will assist in these type of areas?
we do not, and I'm not all that familiar with a lot of the programs for men, but what I have been told and what seems to be known is that there are more programs for men than there are for women. It is much easier for a man to find a spot in a recovery house than it is for a woman who's coming out of treatment. That is known. If you talk to any treatment center or short-term treatment center, they'll tell you that the beds available for women are fewer and far between.
That's because women seek help more than men.
Women, yeah, I do know of Allentown Mission. Because we feed my company, Bayer Real Estate, we feed the men there the last Tuesday of every month. And the environment there, you're absolutely right. I think during COVID, they were filled to capacity. But on a whole, there's always an empty bed. Perhaps because women more or less, we talked about it earlier in the show, we'll discuss it more.
I didn't hear that.
Bloom is a
No, the one that you feed.
Allentown Mission.
It's the
Males.
It's
men
men only.
only.
It's
Okay.
men only. And men tend to, if they're in an environment like that, I don't think they speak at the same level or as frequently, because there's a taboo with a man saying this happened to me sexually.
Right.
You know, it's either if it was in any kind of way, yo, you're the man then. This is you're the man. Unless he's raped. No, you have a statement here, and I read it, and it grabbed me in such a way that I almost want to make it a mantra for those who are thinking this way. And you have here, one of your participants had stated, "I begged God to take me, but I am grateful today that He didn't." Tell me about the situations that some of the things that people out here should be looking for in young women, your women's program, so that we can stop or be at least a hurdle for them to take their own life.
Wow. Well, I have heard from women over and over again that they felt the only way out of the life they were living was to die, which to me is tragic. That you think there's, it's one thing. I understand that suicide is a way out for, some people believe that is a way to end their pain and suffering. But when I've heard this from women, and I've heard it from multiple women that have come to our program, I believe where the space that they're at is that they feel life is so full of trauma and tragedy, and their drug use has brought them to a point where their shame is so great that they don't deserve help, and that they really can't ask for help.
They feel
I
like
think,
they don't matter.
The issue of shame is so complex, especially when it surrounds some life choices that are made, and we think we are making this choice, but oftentimes it's really not like, were you really able to make that choice? And I think that's what people don't understand about the issue of sex trafficking. Many people think that it's, the white van driving down the road and quickly abducting a woman or a child from a playground or the sidewalk. But while that does happen, it's not common. It's uncommon. And what is more common is when a woman is groomed, or a child, a young adult, is groomed into believing that this person has their best interest in mind, and that what happens is they buy gifts for these young women, or they befriend them. We're seeing it happen even on social media.
All of what we said.
Really frightening, because we don't know who's on the other side of that screen. You know, a
Right.
young woman might think it's another young person that is telling them they're beautiful. And so these traffickers will target the vulnerable,
Yes.
and they will make them promises and lure them in to believing that they will take care of them, and they will promise them a fairy tale, and then before you know it, these women believe it, and then they're coerced into doing something for their trafficker, and they wouldn't even think that they were trafficked.
Woo!
Yep.
They're thinking that they're doing something for their boyfriend.
Yep. Joining a
Wow.
singles party or something like
Wow.
that.
Those
Yep.
of us that have a healthy relationship of what a healthy relationship looks like, we would think it very odd. But by the time, they're at the point where the trafficker can be very skilled and good at manipulating someone into believing that they're helping him.
Manipulation.
So they, don't even realize that they're a victim. They
Yes.
think that they have chosen this, and that they're doing this to help someone they love.
And their mind is that it's a willing. They
Yeah.
may, and that, so when you said about when you walk into some situations, you almost create it as this was my choice,
Right.
Absolutely.
but you were skillfully manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
Skillfully manipulated. That is exactly right.
Right.
And there are online books written about how to grow this kind of business. It's a $99 billion a year industry, and it's growing. I mean, if you think about it, a drug is consumed, and you cannot sell it again. But a woman can be sold over.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Ooh. That just shared, that was a piece that sometimes a nugget is dropped and you're not sure how it's going to hit. That hit
Right.
that hit with some velocity.
I have heartache in it.
She confirmed everything that we were saying here in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was great to have Carol Anderson on. And just a reminder that she'll be on the Midday Tea on Wednesday. So everybody can tune in on Wednesday at 11 o'clock from 11 to 12. Her and Jane and one of the survivors
A
will be
survivor.
on the Midday Tea on Wednesday from 11 to 12. And we will continue this
You'll
conversation
continue the
with
conversation.
Carol Anderson and Jane. Because again, this is not a topic where you just one and go, one and done. It will be something that's continued on at the sistership, as well as we started with body shaming. So we have part 1 and we have part 2, and I think this morning you saw me
Yeah.
put up like we should do a part 3, and I know I know Jane said we should do it monthly, and Carol Anderson, I just want to thank you for.
I want to thank her too, but I want to share something about Bloom that I, again, looking up on on what you do. Ladies, through Bloom, you can learn entrepreneurial skills to build your strength and allow you to engage with people and business leaders, developing your network in a more of a proper way of being productive, assisting with some of the mental traumas as well. The physical, like you said, can be utilized over and over and over, and we're going to build to get past that. But the mental piece is takes a long time when you have been abused, and whenever it took place for you to begin the healing and to get somewhere past just that feeling of worthlessness. So I also want to share too, if you can, I know we have not too much more today, and there's so much we can talk about. How can people donate or support Bloom and Bloom DIY?
Well, they can go to our website, which
Mhm.
is bloombanger.org, bloombanger.org, and there's a tab up at the top that says Support Bloom, and I will assure you that no donation is too small because we receive no federal or state funding, and we have very little support from corporate and grant funding. We really are supported by small donations from individuals just like you and I that
Right.
work hard for a living,
Okay.
and that is how our program is supported. We are a nonprofit, so everything's tax deductible. People also donate paper products, so anything that's not covered by food stamps. All the women that live in our residence, they are usually eligible for food stamps when they first come in because they're not working, but as they begin working, that changes. But things like toilet paper, feminine care products, and paper towels are always appreciated. And you can always donate them right at our studio, which is a supportive workplace. It's run by women survivors who live in our program, and that's at 34 Broadway in Bangor. And we make gifts. You can come in and create something. We create on wood, fabric, and glass. And it's just a great place to come in and create. And now we also are doing pottery and glass fusion. So
Nice.
we make some gifts that we sell, and you can find those in our studio or even online. We have a little online store that you can see as well. But we would love your support.
Yes, yes. I want to repeat that to everyone out there listening. Bloom, BLOOM, Banger, BANGOR.org. Just so you're getting the correct spelling. And I was going to ask you for permission if it's okay to say the address because I'm not sure sometimes that isn't, and you shared. So 34 Broadway, Bangor, Pennsylvania, 18013. Again, Carol Anderson, we're going to be blessed again to hear your voice on Wednesday towards just, again, conversation to support any of our daughters, our nieces, our sisters, our mothers that are out there, our brothers, our uncles, those children, the communities, the LGBTQ plus communities, any being that is dealing with trafficking, human trafficking. We're just thankful. If anyone's out there and knows of anything about this, go to your local, find a Bloom or a place that someone can assist with help. And Carol, thank you so much. If anyone else has
Thank
something
you,
to
Carol.
share. No.
Carol.
Thank you so much, Carol. Blessings to you and blessings to the work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We can take a few more calls, right?
We can
'Cause I
take
know
a
there
few
was
more
something-
calls. There is a call that wanted to come in. I don't know if we have enough time for what that conversation would have been about. I'll put it out there, and maybe this should be another show. And I'm not sure if it should, which platform it will be on. But there is an existing pimp that wants to share what was taking place when he was living that life. A former pimp.
Did he want to call in now? Or
But I think we
don't have enough time
we
for
really
it to
don't
be-
have enough time, and I think that
He could come on the midday
conversation-
tea.
that conversation needs to take
for
a
sure.
little bit more time
Mhm.
and going in that. And also, we have some people that are on some of those sexual artistic sites
Mhm.
that want to discuss what brought them to that point. And actually, and again, I'm not here to judge each piece. I'm here for conversation. What they feel is positive in where they're at in their stage right now.
Mhm.
Because that's real talk, and we, again, it's a topic.
It's
It's
a multi-layered topic.
a
Yeah.
multi-layered topic.
Absolutely.
And I will tell you, when I had a moment, and I'm having, the whole show is a moment, but I thank you, because I felt safe.
Always.
I felt safe. So
We
I
are your
hope-
keeper.
Yes,
and
I
your
hope
sister's
and
keeper.
pray
We on a
that
sister
this
ship.
conversation is safe. Yes,
Mhm.
we're allowing you to feel safe.
Right.
888-304-4401 if you wish to call in. This sometimes is a topic that you may not be comfortable right now. If you want to inbox us and we can have some exterior
Everyone is on
conversations.
Facebook.
We are all on Facebook. The Sister Ship, go to the messenger page and Tiff will see and you know we will have that dialogue.
And all of us actually would see because we're all
We're all in
administrators
it,
on the
yeah.
page. So everybody in here would see when somebody sends a message to the group. Also, this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is also one of the reasons why we were focusing on trafficking as well, is because we want to bring attention to everything in this entire month that is evolves around domestic violence.
Domestic
Okay.
violence.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these situations, you come from childhood traumas in a sexual way. Then you get yourself involved in relationships later
Mm-hmm.
that are violent. And it, you know, and it doesn't look like Carol said, doesn't look like the white van,
Right.
but it still is the white van. It just has a different name. It has mansion.
It looks normal to some people.
Mm-hmm.
So what we might call normal is not necessarily everyone else's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it does exist where these people are groomed. And I say people because male and females experience it, children, teens, and young adults.
Mm-hmm.
We also have to be mindful that no still means no. Every language under the sun, it still means no.
Ooh.
And
And I know before Carol called in, you were saying something about the village. You want to elaborate on that?
well, our villages have changed.
Mm-hmm.
The villages have changed. You had it where, and if you were a part of a village, your neighbor your parent would know before you got home when you did something. There was no such thing as call
Right.
waiting,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
no three-way calls, none of that. But you got in trouble by your neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and then you got in trouble by your parents as well. Nowadays, the villages don't talk to my child like that. My child wouldn't do that.
You can't say nothing
But a
to my
lot of
child.
these parents are caught up with overcompensation and being their
Yes.
children's friends
Yes.
Instead of
because they are
yes.
caught up on their phones and they're focused on social media. And most people are chasing a dollar right now so that they could support their family.
Right.
And so where you're not
And they're
given
in single, and
time
they're in single households, so the child becomes their significant other as well.
for some.
For
That's where
some,
the boys
not-
are happening. That's what's happening with a lot of the male
boys,
children.
Yes.
Right.
But females are more domesticated when they come from a single household because they're usually doing the cooking and cleaning and taking care of their siblings. But does that change the topic of where we are? No, that's a part of human trafficking without a parent realizing that could be happening to them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, Tiff, you jumped up in your chair when she said that, so that must what's going on there.
I just for those that have experienced it in any way, shape, or form, know that you're not alone. And if at any point you need to speak to any one of us that will help you, that could give you a conversation, or just be a sounding board so that you can just vent and get some of it out, please feel free to call Genesis Radio. Call the Sister Ship, check in at the Sister Ship, whether it's the email, text message, a post.
And I think Jane, is Jane on, is she in the chat room?
You can always find a way, find someone that you can trust. Parents, it's not always going to be you.
Right.
It's not.
Your children need to know that their village that's around them is a safety zone.
Mm-hmm.
So if your child is saying they don't feel safe, pick up on it. We thank you for coming out and listening to the Sister Show. This will be followed up. We'll give you a future date for the next one.
We have Wednesday midday tea at 11 o'clock with Carol Anderson and Jane. This is not a one session, we're
One
done.
show pony.
This is not something that you open up and you just drop.
Right.
Right.
So the sistership will have hard conversations like this that's either touched one of us or touched everyone, so that everybody can give us a call and we can guide you in the right direction to get some help, or we probably know
Absolutely.
somebody that can help you.
Yes.
It's not easy. When we did this topic, everybody said, oh, this is a little touchy for you to do.
Yeah.
But then we also had people who were saying, yes, do it.
Yeah.
I need it. So we said, okay, well, let's do it. And
There's
that's
a reason
that's what
why
we're
God
here.
brought us all together to have conversations. I'm telling you, therapy is happening. I'm a fan today. I'm not just someone behind the mic.
But
I'm
this is
getting
what we
some
need.
information for myself. And this is all with love. And like I said, I feel like I'm in a safe space.
You are.
So I just
Yeah.
want to say something before we leave. I just want to say, parents, please make time for your children. I know we have very busy schedules, but if you can take 15, 30 minutes of time, and you know what's the perfect place too? At the dinner table. Put those electronic devices down, sit down together, because that's how you can get a lot of stuff out of your children, because that's most of the time of your alone time. And for anybody that needs help, I'm going to give you the national number for domestic violence, which is 1-800-799-SAFE.
799 SAFE. Yes.
Okay, and we will put that up on the website.
Yes.
We will put that up in the chat room. We will also make a page on the sistership with all this information on it so that people can grab it. We also have a black owned business page, businessship directory that we have there. We're gonna start listing the different churches that are in the area. We got a lot of stuff coming.
Amen.
So we're just gonna continue on. Again, we can't do this without everybody in the team, and there is a whole support system of women, the sistership, that are making it happen. And there's a public room, well, a private room where we all get together and we discuss what topics we're gonna choose. And this topic happened to be picked by Daisy, Kalima, and Tiffany today.
Yes, and I also want to say, for us to continue, we need your support. So please, if you're looking for advertising space, get in contact with genesisradio.com, 888-304-4401. Talk to my girl Tiff on the Sistership and Mama C. We love you. This is your girl Tiffany Rowe.info. Tiffany Co, Lady K, Lady Wisdom.